something like that. I don't know. Make sure my audio is off.
We'll find out when it starts up, and then if it ever shows me that it's there. No, it's YouTube.
Yeah. It's YouTube and Google are in cahoots to ruin everybody's day. And that's also like on YouTube now that I just said that. So if I end up in prison, that's why.
I don't know if do they have that much power?
I have no idea.
They've got way more power than that. But what are they going to do? They're going to put you in YouTube prison, which is just basically you're going to get berated by fucking 10-year-olds who are going to just verbally nut drop in your mouth the whole fucking time.
Wow. I just assumed that they would.
Somebody hates 10-year-olds.
Corey loves 10-year-olds.
You know, I can't deny either of those things.
He's like a weird, angry iteration of Kevin Spacey.
Oh, thank you.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Is that too soon? Is that too soon?
Not at all.
Is that too soon?
Not for this show.
That was a good one.
That was solid. Unlike me and Kevin Spacey.
Well, guilty until proven innocent is, I think, how it goes now. It's different.
My wife and I, she loves football, so football is on basically Sunday morning. After I get done watching my movie for the podcast, football is on until we go to sleep. And it was like Jameis Winston. I don't know if PJ, you follow football at all?
No, I'm not a sports person.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. So the quarterback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is being accused of groping a girl, which get in fucking line because everyone is. And I told her, I'm like, hey, if you want to like make up a story about some powerful figure like grabbing your tits, like now's the time to do it.
But your wife is a woman, so I have to assume she doesn't have to make up a story.
No, that's yeah. I'm sure someone has that one, man. She has gigantic boobs, so it's hand in hand. But her response was that she saw a meme that was like, we keep boycotting movies and sports, yet our president openly he openly said he grabs him by the pussy, and I'm like, well, there's no proof. Like
he also
said that he's done it, but he just says he does it. So it's like he could be like that big guy who's like, I fucked all these chicks, and he's still a virgin.
He also is trying to deny the fact that was him on the recording now.
Well, he's not smart. He's walking.
It was Alec Baldwin, I believe. I believe that was Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, Trump is just a walking tangerine with a bad haircut.
Well, in 3 years we'll move on, I guess, and
hopefully.
Well, unless something happens between now and then, and he gets impeached or whatever.
There's a better chance of him getting assassinated than impeached.
Oh, true. There's probably a lot of truth in that, but I don't know. It's just every day it's something. It's a new adventure and disappointment.
I don't really feel like bringing up the A word with the P word in this one, but just because this is going live to YouTube. But I will say it's more than likely that he'll just fucking sideshow Bob himself with a rake in the front yard of the Oval Office.
He gets stuck in the front yard, smacking himself in the head with a rake. Oh man, that's great. And I'm not saying that I want something terrible to happen to him. I'm just saying, like, I feel there are enough radical people out there that hate him so much that there's a better chance of that happening than impeachment.
There was a woman in Texas, I guess, who sent explosive devices to President Obama, and I think maybe the governor of Texas in the last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in the last week it's been, or they at least found out who she was in the last week because her cat hair was on it. So
I saw that.
Crazy cat lady sending bombs to the ex-president and
how is she getting his address?
Well, I assume that she has scout cats. She that's true. She has a network going across the world.
She's the ultimate cat lady.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Which is a wicked superpower. If you're ever going to do it. I mean, they implied that that's how Catwoman worked in the Tim Burton movie, but that's not really how Catwoman works.
She was a lot cooler than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
She was Michelle Pfeiffer, and she wants a cool rider. A cool rider.
Oh, boy. We can actually start recording the show now.
Yeah,
PJ, I don't remember everything you do. I just know that it's a lot, so I'll just let you say everything that you do when we get to that point.
Okay. You Now, are you wanting me to just kind of introduce myself, or we'll just get to it when we get to it?
I'll say, because usually I'll say the number of the episode, what it is, our little production of my name, and make some funny middle name for Corey. There's 2 or 3 sentences of banter, and then we introduce the guest.
Okay.
You're letting people in on the magic.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of magic, people, YouTube is definitely not letting me go to the link of wherever our live recording is. So if there's anybody in the chat, I apologize, because I usually at least slide on.
Ashley's in there, and I'm sober,
It's,
so I'll remember.
it's going directly into the White House, I believe.
Exactly.
All of a sudden, Donald
sent his 2 sons out the front lawn to look for rakes.
It's this show and Fox and Friends. That's the 2 #1 shows.
I don't care for the guy, but if he tweeted at our podcast, I would not be upset. The real Donald get at us podcast there on Twitter.
Podcast of Terror accuses the president of the United States of being a rakist.
That was really bad. All right.
I know.
There's that awkward silence we were waiting for right there.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to start recording. Welcome to episode 108 of the Podcast Dare, a production of the Galactic Network. I'm your host, Matt Stein. With me, as always, is Corey Dad Jokes for Days Scott.
I mean, not for days. Like anything else, I have a cutoff point, and then I need a complete shutdown of all my systems before I can re-up my my ante.
Shut up, Corey.
Yeah, just refractory periods are for the best. In Mexico, it's called a siesta in your pants.
In 20 minutes, Corey will be back with another dad joke because he just blew his load before we started recording. It'll probably come up again. But our guest this week is a guy that does a whole bunch of stuff that I can't remember because he was supposed to be on like a month and a half ago, and Google Hangouts didn't like him. So he's back now. Although if it were up to him, he would have been on last week because he thought he was on last week.
That's right.
PJ Starks. PJ, how are you?
I'm good. I'm on the show I'm finally, so I'm good.
Google Hangouts finally let him on.
They did. They took my restriction away, so now I'm back.
Said one
with a vengeance.
One too many mean things about our president.
And just because they let you on our show doesn't mean that they like you. In fact, it usually points the opposite direction.
Yeah, there's a high suicide rate with our guests.
Oof.
I have noticed a funny smell ever since I came on. So
that's Corey's pussy.
Yeah, it's a 4-day weekend. I've been eating nothing but tuna.
Well, it's very palpable.
Corey, we love you. Please take a shower.
It's more like pulpable.
Oh. PJ, what do you do? What do you do with your life? Corey's vagina.
Well, by day. No, I work a day job, but as a professional hobby, I make films and I produce movies. So that's basically what I do and who I am. And then I go on shows and talk about it and pretend I do a lot more than what I really do.
Well, that's fine. We lie all the time. People seem to think Corey and I are cool, and they don't realize that I'm like in my mom's bedroom. I'm like, Ma, you gotta get out. I gotta talk to the internet.
Well, truth be told, I have not thought either one of you were cool yet. So
yeah,
good. We're fucking losers.
Yeah,
we're fat hipsters who hang out in bedrooms and talk.
I'm kidding.
No,
I don't want to.
I'm actually doing this with. I have no pants on right now. If that tells you anything, so I wanted to be ready.
The point at which that I see the desk start to tip up, then we're gonna have problems.
You can ask my wife. You will never have that problem.
Yeah, we would stand and applaud.
Yeah, look at the boner on this one. So, what are some of the movies? I'd love to talk about your penis for an hour, but people may be interested in like what movies you do because I remember there's a very long list.
Or if they're movies about your penis.
I was gonna say you took the words right out of my mouth, or the penis rather.
Oh boy. I made a long list of the movies that you do a month and a half ago. That was a lot of beers ago. So now it's up to you to talk about them.
I did a few things before Volumes of Blood, but it was mainly like shorts. I did a lot of event type things. I did an event called Unscripted here locally in Owensboro, Kentucky, where I'm from. And it's actually, that was back in 2013. It took off and it's become an annual event. But once I started feeling like kind of a glorified event planner, that's when I decided I wanted to kind of get back into film, and Unscripted actually opened the door to that. So I created Volumes of Blood, which is a horror anthology, and it was really kind of an opportunity for me to work with some of the film friends that I had, and some other people that I'd met along the way, like Nathan Thomas Milliner. It kind of gave us an excuse to work together. So right now, I would say if I had a claim to fame, and I'm using that term fame very loosely, it would probably be Volumes of Blood. That seems to be what I'm known for the most, because it took off and did far better than what we ever anticipated, which led to the sequel, Volumes of Blood Horror Stories, and it too took off and did way better than what we thought it would, and that's what kind of opened up the door. So since then, I've been attached to other projects, helping produce in various different capacities on several different ones. Butcher the Bakers, Maniac Farmers, one of the new ones. I'm working on one now called Angel by the director of The Wicked One. Just all kinds of different projects. Like you said, there's a whole myriad list of those projects, and if you Google my name, which I hate saying, because I feel like it makes me sound egotistical or something, but that's really the best way to kind of find out what I've been up to, is if you just Google PJ Starks. It'll give you far more than what you ever wanted to know about me or my projects or whatever.
That's impressive, because if you Google me, I'm a doctor. I am not a doctor. I can barely put my pants on.
That, first of all, that's a good thing. I would rather be known as, if you're a good doctor.
No. When you
what
say
kind of
good doctor,
now is it gynecologist? If it's gynecologist,
I'm looking right now. Oh God, I got a little different now. There's a technology writer when technology fails by Matthew Stein, not me. Speaker engineer is also Matt Stein. The doctor must be gone. Maybe he's dead. Matthew Stein. Oh, I forgot there's a guy named Matt Stein, Coast to Coast.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
This is going to end. I don't know what he's talking about. He's a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering from MIT. That's not me. I don't. Yeah.
So your claim to fame is not being any of those guys that come up whenever you Google your name.
I know how to turn a computer on, but I don't understand how food turns into poop. So, I mean, between the doctor.
Recently, my wife was talking to somebody, and I can't remember what they were talking about exactly, but she Googled my name, and it came up that I had written a novel called Satan Has Risen, which I have not.
All right, we got to go.
So I got this text message, and she was like, "We need to talk about this book you wrote."
What?
And I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I Googled your name, and it came up that you were the author. You apparently wrote a book. What's up with that?" Like, because there are times when I'm a part of projects or I'm working on something, and I guess I'm the atypical husband, and I don't tell her everything I've got going on. She's usually aware of most everything, but occasionally some things slip through the cracks, and apparently she thought this was one of them, that I'd written a book about Satan. But no,
yeah,
apparently
but I feel like if you loved Satan enough to write a book about him, she may or may not have heard you talk about Satan once or twice.
True. Well, because of the types of films that I typically work on or directly make myself, it would not surprise her that I would probably write something in that vein. So I think that's probably, I mean, she wasn't like pissed off or anything, but she was just like, "What is up with this?" And I looked it up, and apparently for some reason I'm being attributed to some book. I guess there's an author out there at one time, somebody named PJ Starks had written a book about Satan, or Satan is Rising, something along those lines.
Right now.
Yeah, I can't find Satan Has Risen by PJ Starks, although when I just put in Satan Has Risen in quotes, I get Satan Little League Superstar. And that sounds like something that I desperately want to read.
That's the book I'm working on now, actually. That's my new.
I wish that was true. A young Satan decides that he wants to take his crack at Little League Baseball.
It really sounds like a legitimate Japanese comic book. Because they're big into sports comics, and Satan's pretty prevalent in a lot of their stuff, especially if he's having sex with you.
So in all this Googling of your name, I think you're too cool for us.
No.
I just found
I'm definitely not
exclusive
too
interview
cool.
on Dread Central.
Yeah, I've got to ask.
I do too. I'm a media whore. I'm a self-proclaimed media whore as well.
Did
There's-
Melissa or Tori, were they the ones who pointed you in our direction? Because they've been very, very kind to us and very, very mean to people of your stature. But
it may have been Tori, actually.
I feel like
I can't entirely recall, but it's very possible.
Yeah, it just seems like that would have been the timing. Tori has been phenomenally kind to us. So either way, we appreciate you being here.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Very busy schedule.
I don't know if I appreciate it anymore.
It's not that bad, is it?
No, not at all.
Here's where I gently remind the listeners that Matt is currently sober. So,
I am. I am.
This is a mean Matt.
I was hungover until 8:30 last night. That's a new record. Yeah. So yesterday was bad. It was
what's a record though? I mean, when did you stop drinking?
Well, okay. Friday night got fuzzy. Bits and pieces I don't remember. I found a picture on my phone of taking a picture of someone else's phone that was from 12:23. So I started drinking at like 2:15 in the afternoon. We had some people over, and that's the last thing I remember. My wife said when we went to bed, I kept telling her that I was seeing two of her. I don't remember any of that. I don't remember the last couple people leaving.
You didn't try to score a threesome?
I guess not.
Oh, dumb.
If I tried, I failed. So joke's on me. But
Whiskey Dick is a bitch.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't have remembered it if you couldn't get it up. So technically, there's no regret, right? There's no regret.
Was phenomenal. I don't know what you're talking about, baby.
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, I have low testosterone, so I just have low T dick.
Oh, so, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm just a literal ball of testosterone. My wife likes to complain about the potions I take, which I say they're pre-workouts, and then I slap her.
With the penis.
I'm just like, you're dick. That's not going anywhere good. So
let's talk about your alcoholism. Let's talk about that for a minute.
That is a separate podcast, and I don't mean like a single episode. I mean a whole fucking series.
I was going to say that's an entire series.
That's the way we don't
the intervention podcast.
The Galactic Network.
Oh, fuck you guys. I mean that in the nicest way possible. I don't know, and I don't have I almost said a gambling problem. I have a collecting problem. I have a shit ton of beer in my basement. I buy it faster than I drink it.
It just distracts the dogs from the actual bodies.
I mean, I guess I can't really argue that. But
so you actually collect beer?
You cellar it. So you get you're in Kentucky. Have you heard of Goose Island Brewery from Chicago? Okay, so
I don't drink, so I'm.
But you're at least familiar with the name.
What was the name again?
Goose Island.
No.
Okay, well, whatever. So because this is 2 days after Black Friday. Black Friday, Goose Island releases their Bourbon County Stout. So it is a stout that they barrel age in bourbon barrels, and then they do variants. So they take that beer and then barrel age it in different barrels and shit. My Black Friday shopping was going to liquor stores to get as many bottles as I could because they're like limited. So one liquor store got 15 cases and a line started at 6 a.m. They opened the doors at 8. So there's 2 bottles per person. So then I went to a different liquor store that opened at 10 a.m. that I had my name on the list. They had 3 per person and then one of the variants. So it's like of those 5 bottles, like I drank one on Friday, which was a mistake. I will keep one for as long as I humanly possibly can because over the years the taste changes. So like the booziness from the bourbon barrels will fall off, and you'll get more of the bourbon and more like the sweeter notes of the beer. And then the other ones, like one I got for a buddy in Ohio because they can't get it there because the alcohol content is too high. And then I'll like maybe trade one or sell one or something, hang on to it for a special occasion.
So you went multiple different locations on Black Friday trying to score?
Mhm.
I think when your Black Friday shopping starts to sound like the hobby of a meth head going from CVS to Walgreens to score Sudafed, I think it's time to start.
Hey, man.
Remember, record hangover for
Yeah.
Matt's Blackout Friday experience.
I was calling it Blackout Friday. Yeah, there's a place up in Minneapolis that puts a beer out, and normally there's like a limit of one. So I'll go, and then I'll make one of my coworkers go with me and get one. And then my boss, he won't be my boss for long, but he goes to a different liquor store and buys me one. And then I call my mom, who lives like, a couple of counties over, and I'm like, you gotta go to the store and get me one. I get my 4. I have one to drink, one to trade, one to give to my buddy in Kansas, and then I have one to sell her. Yeah.
Wow.
There's just a lot of money.
We all have to have a hobby.
I just want to back up. I just want to back up for a second. Your boss is not going to be your boss for long. It implies in this conversation that he's going to die from alcohol poisoning.
No. They're restructuring our IT, and I'm getting a new boss in March.
Oh, okay.
He's not dying.
I took it as he was going to be fired after this podcast.
Exactly.
I actually assumed one of you were going to be
for
like
the admittance of all this alcoholism.
That's fine. I've actually left work because I'll see on Facebook. I follow a bunch of liquor stores, and it'll be like, "Hey, we got this beer," and I'll just get up and be like, "I gotta go to the liquor store quick." I have a very flexible job, so it's
it sounds like it.
As long as I get my work done, no one cares.
I'll be back in a couple hours. I got to run to the liquor store.
I believe that the rest of the world is very forgiving towards our IT department if we just don't randomly shoot people or anything. It's like, oh, okay, yeah. Thank you for not murdering the entire office. So
last Thursday morning, I went into work late because there's a bourbon, Pappy Van Winkle, was released, and it's like a thing where if you can find it, it's I've never had it. It's one of those things that it's like it's supposed to be so good that it's like I just want to try it. And I got a couple friends we were going to go in on a bottle. So the guy at the liquor store was like, "Oh, we started selling it at 9 a.m." So I'm like, "Well, I'll just leave my house at like 8. It's like 20 minutes there. And then after I get it, I'll go into work." So I just told everyone at work, and I said, "Well, I have an appointment at 9, so I'll be late."
What is it called?
Pappy Van Winkle.
So it's named after something about a story about a guy who sleeps for 80 years?
That's Rip Van. Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because the original is called Old Rip Van Winkle.
Oh, man.
This is about a guy who's drunk for 80 years.
Yep.
Right.
That's the big difference.
Yeah, so I believe I went to a store here later that day because the one I went to, the line started at 3 a.m, and it was sold out before I got there. Even though the guy said they weren't going to start till 9, and it was sold out at 8:15. That's a different complaint. I went to a different store, and I was in there, and I just was kind of wasting some time during my lunch. And the guy's like, "Well, can I help you?" And I'm like, "Well, if you got a bottle of Pappy laying around, like I would take that." And he pointed it out, and it was $311. The bottle retails for $60. This place was selling it for 5 times that. I'm like, it ain't worth that to me.
Holy crap.
Yeah. If I can do it, cool. If not, no big deal.
$300, I can just pay somebody to punch me in the head a bunch of times, and I'll feel like I'm that drunk.
Well, I sold a bottle of beer for $250 one time, and I'm like, it's not worth it to me. Like, if you want this, I want your $250 more. It paid for my entire weekend, which included 4 bottles of beer of a different kind.
Right.
Yeah. But I feel like we should talk about your movies more because I'm curious. I'm like looking at your IMDb.
I really don't have a dog in this fight. Occasionally, my wife will send me to go buy her Moscato, and that's about as far as my knowledge of alcohol goes.
No,
well,
that's
and I come from a long line of alcoholics. But besides that,
see, my mom has we nickname my mom 2 Beer Shirley because she has 2 Miller Lights and she is fucking whippy. I'm more the type of I'll have a nice beer and that's it. Getting drunk is not fun to me. I did not plan on getting drunk because I knew what it would do to me yesterday, which resulted in 3 naps and me being on the couch until 8 o'clock. It really wasn't fun. I felt like shit.
That's kind of how my weekend was, except mine is caused by me being nearly 50.
Well,
I don't know what to say to that. I'm the youngest.
I don't know what to say to that either.
Yeah.
I'm going to be 36 soon.
Yeah, look forward to this. This is your future, kids. You feel hungover all the fucking time. You were just like a walking pile of misery. Enjoy.
Well, unless you're like me and you don't drink, and then you sit around and you're completely knowledgeable of your shitty existence.
I haven't drank for over
There's
20 years.
nothing to take the pain away. So
Yeah,
No alcohol,
Corey doesn't
no
drink.
alcohol for 20 bucks. Yeah.
I'm the resident drunk here.
Yeah, Matt gets mad at me because he asks every week, "What are you drinking?" And it's always the same goddamn Lipton iced tea.
There's nothing wrong with that. So I shouldn't say always. I drink more now that someone requested. So I obviously have a shit ton of beer, and I would usually have one or two during shows just because it's social. Like, I'm hanging out with people. This makes me feel less bad about it than sitting on my couch drinking with my dogs. Like my pet dogs, not like my dogs. So someone emailed and basically said, like, hey man, like, what the fuck? Like, you do this all the time. We want to know what it is. So that's why we started the What You Drinking, which then turned into like me planning out what beers I was going to have during podcasts. Which I guess let's do that real quick because I know Corey has something and I'm not drinking beer. So people may be interested in what I'm putting in my mouth hole. Corey, what you drinking?
I'm drinking Lipton iced tea.
You fucking asshole.
I just told you I'm a boring old fuck. What the hell?
PJ, I know what you're drinking, but the people don't.
Water.
Oh boy. Nice pure.
What brand?
Yeah. Nestle Pure Life.
Oh, that's good.
So it's from a tap.
I think they're stealing from my state, which was going through a drought, and they're like, "Hey, well, that's great, you guys. We're gonna just keep all this water, though, anyway."
What has the name Nestle in it? So I'm fat and I can pretend like maybe somewhere inside there's a chocolate bar.
Essence of chocolate.
It's gonna jump out and let me eat it.
There's plenty of essence of chocolate water in my toilet, so you can enjoy.
Well, I'm drinking coffee. Delicious black coffee from Co-op Coffee Roasters in Madison, Wisconsin, called Reanimator.
Sexy.
I could just eat soda biscuits and we could do like some NPR.
You drink with your pinky out?
I would try not to burn myself.
Oh, that's good.
That's the money shot right there.
Yeah. There's no semen on my face.
I was gonna say you had to throw the extra little tongue action in right at the end.
It's better than the lazy lip drag. I like to do that. If you're eating a penis-shaped food, you just kind of drag your lip up the side of it. That makes people real uncomfortable. All right, I want to talk about your movies. Before we get sidetracked yet again, so obviously Volumes of Blood, it's what, 2015, 2 years old, and then the second one is coming out.
Yeah, it dropped on DVD, Blu-ray, and VOD within the last couple months, so it's pretty fresh on the market.
Don't you know these things?
Who, me?
Yeah, like, don't you know when things, like, I know every time I put a CD out, I know when it's out. You don't know when your movies come out, you fucking big shot.
Yeah, it came out within the last couple months.
Man.
When you work on a film for so long, eventually you get to a point where you're just like, all right, I'm done. It's time to move on to the next thing. So that's kind of how I am with like, that's not to say I don't appreciate it or I don't still love it. But eventually you get to a point where you're like, I've seen this fucking movie so many times. I'm ready for it just to be out there in the stratosphere and hopefully other people enjoy it. And now I can move on with my life for 2 minutes.
Yeah, see, Matt is a has-been. He's still holding on to childhood glory, and I'm a never was. So I've got nothing to look back to. I mean, pretend.
Well, technically, I'm still a never was. I mean, I have not done anything that has impacted my life so much that, I still work paycheck to paycheck, and it's funny how that works because they're on my stepdad's side of the family. They're the ones who. They get together all the time, but like I have to have at least a few days notice or like a week's notice because I do have a lot of stuff that I'm constantly doing or have planned. I like to be able to plan ahead if I can, but they'll literally wait till the day before and go, "Oh, hey, you should, we're having a family reunion tomorrow. You should show up." And I'm like, "Well, what if I know?"
I just want to point out that you're being shafted because they knew about that family reunion more than a day in advance.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what pisses me off. I'm like, you've had this planned for a while. Why am I just now finding out about it? So I have yet to actually be at one of their get-togethers. I think last Thanksgiving was probably the last time I was actually around everybody. But what's happened is since they have this weird perception that because I make movies that I'm super busy and have all this money.
Yeah, they don't want you around because it's just going to make them feel like their piddly shit lives don't fucking equate. And which is not necessarily what you're implying, and I'm not saying that their lives are piddly shit, but it is kind of tough. It's like, oh yeah, my cousin shows up, he makes movies, and I don't do that. So somebody love me, please.
I don't really get that necessarily. I'm sure that does happen, but I literally think it's just they don't. I don't know if I'm an afterthought or what, but I mean I'll hear from my mom the very next day about how she had all these conversations about how they wished I was there and they wish they could have been able to see me, but they understand how busy I am because I make movies and like they ask if I've bought like a big new house or if I'd like drive a Bentley or something. I mean, it's just like they'll give her 21 questions because there is, they think that just because I've made some movies that somehow I've got this big fat wallet and a hefty bank account, but that's
Why hasn't PJ bought us a house yet? That stuck up motherfucker. Fucking goes to Hollywood and abandons his family. Like, screw that guy. We're gonna have a reunion, and he's not gonna be invited. See how he feels about that.
I know. Well, it's that that must be it. But I don't know, and I'm friends with them on Facebook.
Yep.
So it's not like they can't message me. So I don't know.
That's true. Yeah. If it makes you feel any better, my family knows that I play in a band, so they just assume that I'm drunk in a ditch somewhere. Not false.
Yeah,
I was going to say that I don't know about the ditch part, but the drunk part sounds like it could be very factual.
They have literally driven past the ditch and seen Matt's bare ass hung out over his dead deer carcass. Just like, oh, he got the new beer. That's good for him. Good for him.
Oh, that is very sad.
Yeah, it's my life.
Not for the deer carcass.
No, true. Were you eating the deer? Is that why it's just a carcass, or did you hit it with your car and somehow?
I don't know how the deer got involved in this conversation.
That's what I'm wondering. Did you run at it like a quarterback and just take it out?
And then I used its blood to put like party lines on my face, and I just ran out another one.
That is a party.
And then I fucked it to death. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? You want me to admit
that's what I was hoping. Now I can leave now. I'm done. That's all I wanted was to hear.
Just, wow.
I go on podcasts in the hope to take it to the level of bestiality, and then that's it. Now I'm done.
Okay. Story time. I'm gonna try. This doesn't have anything to me fucking a deer. It's a story that I heard.
I was gonna say I used the term bestiality, and you're like, "Hey, story time."
I was not the one that fucked the deer. Let's start there. So
that sounds highly debatable at this point, but go on.
A buddy of ours, he's a friend of our show, a very, very good friend of mine, used to be a corrections officer in the big city here. And he told me a story once about how one of the guys he worked with went to a check on one of his people. I don't know what they're fucking called off the top of my head. And the guy just had, he was covered in basically blood and fur. And they were like, hey man, like what the fuck's happening here? And he said he was riding his bike down the street and saw a deer carcass and it turned him on. So he drug into the woods and fucked it. And he was a repeat offender.
Yikes.
Yeah. As I said, I didn't fuck the deer. That guy did.
The repeat offender did.
Yeah, the repeat offender did. I just masturbated to the thought.
He was at least thoughtful enough to drag it into the woods first.
Just fuck it on the side of the road. Just people do about me.
Hey, maybe I'm not gonna bang you out here on the street like some common hooker. This. Just, by the way, that
take you into the woods.
That's a terrible term. I mean, sex worker. But I'm gonna drag you in the woods like a hooker. Yeah, that's great.
What's even more terrifying is the fact that you have that story in your database.
That's true. There's a lot of fucked up things happen up there.
I mean, once you have that story in your mind, it can never really go away. It's like fucking Barnacle. It just you try to scrape it off. No, you're not.
Once in a while,
no more smooth sailing for you.
Like that's not one that I tell often, but sometimes bestiality gets mentioned, and I'm like, oh yeah, by the way,
we're the special ones.
Well, oddly enough, I actually have a bestiality story, but it's not as extreme as that.
Oh, damn.
Mine is I was hanging out with some friends. This was right after high school, hanging out with some friends. We went to a friend of a friend's house, and the guy was like, hey, you got to check out this new video that I got my hands on. And we're like, okay. So we go into his room and he pops in a VHS tape, and it was a woman fucking a horse.
I believe the horse was fucking the woman, just to be clear.
I don't believe
know.
The horse.
She looked
like I got a fucking casting call this week, and I know I promised myself I wasn't. I told my mom I'm not going to go to Hollywood and get into adult cinema. But Mom, it's rough out here for a horse. And I got 4 legs and I got to eat. And so I did it for the exposure. No, I think at this point, it's the woman had sex with the horse.
Well, I don't know. The horse was just, if I remember correctly, the horse was just standing there. The woman had all the control.
If I remember correctly, I see what you're doing here. Trying to play it off like you don't watch this thing.
I only watched it for a few 5 or 10 minutes, and then I was disgusted.
I only watched the entire video back to back 4 times in a row just to be sure that I knew what I was seeing. And
that thing was
and then I watched
the Ring video.
And then later, when it came out on DVD, I watched the special features, but that's it. We ended up not ever going back over to that guy's house. But yeah, oddly enough, I didn't have to. He gave me the VHS, but
there was no need for it anymore. I had acquired what I went there for.
Turned out it was picked up from the local library.
No, but you're right. I mean, that is one of those things where it's like it happened, and it's hard to forget about it. You just cannot forget about it.
I have a library story too. Since Corey mentioned that, a friend of mine, I don't talk too much anymore, but he was the network admin for the public library in town here. And he texted me out of the blue one day, and he goes, dude, so we got to kick some guy out because he was jerking off. And I was like, okay. He goes, well, that's not that uncommon. Like that happens. It's not uncommon. And he goes, but I had to watch the video that the dude was jerking off to. And he goes, there's just a girl peeing in her underwear.
Like, is she in her underwear peeing through it, or she's got her underwear down and she's trying to pee directly into the underwear like a bucket?
Literally wearing the underwear and just taking a piss with him on, and the dude is just going to fucking pound town in a public building.
Why did he have to watch what this guy was watching?
So that they
why was that part of the requirements?
To file the police report.
Yeah. Now, was this a video that the library was renting out, or
no? It was a YouTube video. So I think he had to watch it to then report it to block it. Yeah.
I just want to state, I know that I am the dullest person on the show. I have no bestiality stories. So sorry, America.
America's very sad right now.
That presumes
we're gonna get emails to be like, please get rid of Corey until he gets a bestiality story.
Fucking Corey thinks only America wants to hear about animal fucking. What the hell?
How did we get onto this subject after you saying we should be talking about your movies?
We were talking about your career.
I was going to say somehow that morphed into talking about bestiality.
All right. So speaking of bestiality, tell me
why your family doesn't want you around. That's the other part.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. It went from my family to somehow bestiality.
Yeah. So speaking of bestiality, tell me about your movie 1031.
Okay. Well, first of all, Rocky Gray. He is the former drummer for Evanescence, and he's super talented, extremely talented musician. He had done the score for, I'm just giving you a little bit of the backstory, but he had done the score for a movie called The Barn. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that or not, but I mean, it killed on the indie circuit, and it's a really fun movie if you get a chance to check it out. So he had done the score for that, and that's how I got in contact with Rocky, and he ended up doing a majority of the score for Volumes of Blood Horror Stories. Well, after Horror Stories took off, Rocky and I had continued to talk, and we met at the premiere and everything. And he said he was working on this project, and he was interested in maybe having me come on board and helping out with marketing or promotions and some kind of creative capacity and this, that, and the other. So that's how I ended up coming on to 1031. Now, 1031 is also it's a Halloween themed horror anthology. And it's Justin Seaman, who did The Barn, is one of the directors. Zane Hirschberger, who also, the two of them had worked on Volumes of Blood horror stories also, but they both directed a sequence in 1031. Rocky did a sequence. It's his directorial debut. And the film premiered at a film festival in Texas last month in October. And now it's getting ready to. There was a few things they had to go back and finalize, so it's getting ready to hit the festival circuit and go full steam into that. And then I'm kind of helping them, hopefully maybe try to get some distribution. But I mean, it's a fun movie. It's definitely not your atypical kind of horror anthology in the sense that it kind of runs the gamut with, monsters and killers, and it's got they've all got some really inventive twists. And there's just Brett Dieger, who did Bone Jangles. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that movie or not. He's one of the directors. He did a sequence which was about when it was the blizzard of '93 is what or the October blizzard of '93. I'm probably getting the title for his sequence wrong, so he's gonna probably yell at me after he watches this. But it's funny because I had forgotten all about that. Back in '93, like in this area in the Midwest, it snowed pretty heavily on Halloween. So I can remember going out and trick-or-treating, and it's funny because I'd forgotten all about that until he did his sequence. And that brought back a whole lot of memories, so I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, it's definitely one that you need to keep an eye out for. And there's no release date or anything yet, but right now it's getting ready to hit the festival circuit.
The Halloween blizzard of '91.
There you go.
You're only off by 2 years. It's not that bad.
Just 2 years. It's off by 2 years. Maybe it snowed in '93 also.
Possible.
Don't judge me.
Hey, man. I'm trying to help you out here.
I'm giving you a hard time.
I'm fully erect.
For more of this podcast, including show notes, contact info, and
damn it, we did it again.
Go to giancast.com/pot and to chat with us in our Slack, which might be easier to get to than the YouTube. You can go to giancast.com/signup.
That is normally within the first 5 minutes. That's read. 3 weeks in a row. It's taken over a half an hour to get to.
I feel like some of this stuff is like it's so old hat. People, one, skip over that part, and two, nobody joins the Slack. We get it. You listen on your own time. If you want to hang out with us, honestly, we've got a Facebook page. That would be the coolest place to just hang out if you're on the Facebook or the Twitter. Matt pays attention to the Twitter. We love communicating with fans of the show any way that we can. So email is great too. But for the most part, that stuff's just like, that doesn't matter. What matters is we're hanging out with PJ and we're talking about people fucking animals.
That's right. It's it's all about today's social climate. That's the hard hitting issues that people want to know about, and
Yeah. I guess all the animal fucking kind of goes into the movie that we watched, because there was a lot of like weird sexual undertones. Not really an undertone. Like, it was just straight fucking, everyone was trying to fuck in this movie.
Have you mentioned the name of the movie yet?
Blood Rage. And
Blood
it's not about someone's period.
As much as we wanted it to be. Oh dear Lord.
It's not cranberry sauce.
It's not cranberry sauce.
It's not cranberry sauce.
I kept looking into the Wikipedia and IMDb to just see if maybe they were doing that ironically, and it actually was cranberry sauce used for the blood in the film, because that would have been amazing.
So
what? Something tells me that it probably was cranberry sauce.
That's my guess.
Because I don't know. I don't think the budget was too big on this movie.
$45, I think.
Yeah, but there was some like decent kill stuff, like the scene of the doctor when she's cut in half and she's sitting there and she's like still alive and struggling. It wasn't a horrible job of showing that. It was actually kind of decent for what the rest of the film gave us.
Are we going to start at the beginning, or are we just going to jump around?
Yeah,
I have so many things that I could say, but I didn't want to. I didn't know if we should start from the very beginning or.
PJ, would you take the honors and recap for us?
All right, so Blood Rage, which came out in 1987, is a slasher film about two twins who sneak out of their parents' car, and one of them murders a patron of said drive-in, and then blames it on, I believe it was it Terry blames it on Todd?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, Todd ends up going to some kind of mental health facility, and Terry gets to continue on and live with Mommy. And then it jumps to years later. I don't remember how many
About
years
10
later,
years.
but 10 years later. And then, of course, it's on Thanksgiving, and they're all together having a Thanksgiving dinner, and the mother makes an announcement that she is marrying new daddy. And I guess that's what kind of sets Terry off, and then he goes on a killing spree. And, of course, Todd breaks out, which then allows him to use him as a red herring of sorts. And lots of cranberry sauce is thrown around.
There's a lot of cranberry sauce.
Yeah,
I have like one question that came to mind is the mom, she eat a lot of Ambien, because it looked like there was just a chunk of the movie, everything she did looked like it was just like sleepwalking, like when she's just eating the leftovers out of the bowl and just like fisting green beans into her mouth and vacuuming while drinking a shit ton of wine. I get that she was probably just drunk, but I'm like, I can't tell if she's drunk or what.
Well, Louise Lasser, a little before this movie was made, was in a show called Mary Hartman, which looked in the advertisements to be like a typical early 80s sitcom, but it was actually more soap opera-ish and dealt with craziness of like mental health, people going nuts, murder, and everything else. It was only for, I think, about a season or so. It didn't last very long, but it looked very innocuous compared to what it actually was. It was like the show Soap, except taken to the most insane extremes. And so her character, she plays this kind of hyper semi on the cusp of insanity person really well, like just totally jacked up and probably needing some methamphetamines to calm her shit down a little bit.
I kind of I don't know if it was I think it may have been a mix. Let me say this. I don't know exactly what her acting style is, because the only exposure I've had with her as an actress is in this film. So there were times where I thought her acting was not terrible, and then there were other times where it's like you said, it felt like she was on Ambien and trying to act, and it just came across as bad acting. And but at the same time, I obviously she was extremely overbearing, but I think she also had a very weird and unhealthy relationship with her children, because she obviously could not, that character had a really difficult time, I would say, having any kind of relationship with a grown man. And the only time you see her having some kind of close relationship, even with the new dad, like he's there, but they're not super affectionate. And they were actually apart more than they were together.
Mm-hmm.
Most of her affection goes towards the kids.
Yeah, but she spends most of her scenes trying to get him on the phone, and it is apparently walking distance to his fucking office. She's like, please, I'm sorry I called the wrong number, but please just put me through to I know that he's there. He won't pick up. And it's like, it really felt like he was right around the corner because both her and Todd walked over to his fucking place at some point, Todd to kill him, but her to go find his body and then like, hey, how's it going? Why are you just sitting there all still in the fucking dark like an asshole? Why won't you pick up the phone? What's that big hole in your face? It's like, but so much of the movie is her sitting there on the phone screaming at operators and screaming at people that she dialed the wrong number on because she's using a rotary dial fucking phone in 1983. It just like she can't stop trying to reach him. And in the meantime, her son is out murdering people and she knows her other son has escaped from this penitentiary. Sometimes she calls it a mental institute, but sometimes she calls it a school. He left school. Okay, well, he ran away from school. Okay, so the school is a mental health facility and he murdered some people. But really, can you just reach my fucking husband? That is her whole fucking thing. And the denial of her son, like the doctor's like, hey, by the way, it turns out that your other kid is the one who murdered people. You want to confront that? No, you're full of shit. I just came here to bring my other son pie. Bitch is crazy.
So you liked the movie, right?
I loved it so much.
Okay, that's what I took away from that. That's what
had wood for a whole 30 seconds, which is the best that I've had a sustainment of an erection in probably 15 years. So
I think some of those scenes, and you're absolutely right. That there were a lot of completely random, pointless scenes and shots with that character, like you said, like with her sitting in the kitchen and eating the food out of the refrigerator, or her vacuuming while she's drinking, or there was probably at least 3 or 4 scenes where she's just sitting there and she has a monologue while she's talking to somebody on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And probably a lot of that stemmed from, if I gather correctly, out of everybody who was attached to that project, like she was the name.
She was the most popular. She
had done
playing
some
this
stuff.
manic character from her show, a Norman Lear show, actually. So yeah, I completely agree. They probably had a loose script, and they said, "Oh yeah, well here's what the mom's motivations are," and then they managed to sign her up, and they're like, "Holy shit, we have to stretch this motherfucker."
Yeah, we need to write some more stuff for her to do, and then some of it doesn't even have to have dialogue. We'll just have her fucking eat some food. Just so long as she's in the movie for this much amount of time, because that's kind of what I gathered from a lot of those scenes, is they were just stretching it out because they were just interspersed randomly throughout the film,
they
and a lot of them
had her chewing scenery. They
served no purpose whatsoever, because probably those scenes where she's trying to get in touch with her husband probably weren't there originally. She literally just left and went. And then they were like, well, you know what? We need her in the movie more, so let's have her try to get in touch with him on the phone.
Just let her vamp
twice. Right. Yeah. So that's what I gathered from that. But yeah, those were some of the most melodramatic moments for her. And to me, that's where the bad acting shined through the most, was when she's yelling at someone over the phone. I mean, I thought those were some of the worst moments for her.
It's not like the movie couldn't have benefited from trying to give some sort of reasoning as to why this guy is killing people. Like, they never go into the instance of this is the reason that he's doing it. It's just they started as kids in the back of a car at a drive-in movie, which had Ted Raimi in it as a guy selling condoms in the bathroom, which is just like, that to me is the get of the film. Is Ted Raimi sitting there, he's got his vest opens up and it's just full of condoms pinned. By the way, you don't pin
to the inside of his vest, yeah,
because that's effective. I guess in the 80s we felt like it was. But so Ted Raimi is selling condoms. She wants to have sex with this guy that she's dating, or he definitely wants to bang her, in the car, but her twin sons are in the back. She's like, well, like, we can't have sex because the kids are in the back seat. Oh, they're asleep. All right, yeah, fuck it, put it in me. And then the kids wake up, are not quiet, get out of the car, the light goes on, they don't notice any of this, and they're just like, oh, we're just gonna bang. And so they go out, and so one of the kids is like, hey, while we're here, I just randomly found an axe and I'm going to kill somebody, just because that guy's also banging someone in a car, and yeah, that's what I do. And then manages to get completely clean of the blood but smear it onto his brother's face and hands his brother the axe. His brother's like fucking comatose and like, I just witnessed a murder. I don't know how to react. Hey, he did it. That's it. And just like, and then it takes 10 years for this guy to fucking decide that, hey, now that I got away with this 10 years ago, I'm going to go do this all over again in this little fucking, I don't know, campground village that they all fucking live at and kill everybody. But again, I'll be able to get away with it because my brother just got out from school. I mean, institution, whatever. No motivation. Just like, I want to kill everybody because I'm a twin. Oh, and I think I saw my mom's boobs once.
You know, when you put it that way, it almost makes it sound like there's not a whole lot of substance to this movie. I mean, really, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, there really is no motivation whatsoever. His character as a child, other than the fact that he just murders people. And the thing is I think that's when you're going to get there's a couple different types of viewers. There's the ones who they don't need that motivation because sometimes a killer is just a killer.
Right.
You know, and it's like in Scream, whenever Billy Loomis, you know, made the comment about I think Norman Bates didn't really have much of a motive for killing.
But Norman Bates is explored. You see his motive in his psychosis.
Right. Oh, now I would never begin to compare Blood Rage with Psycho, because with Psycho there was a lot of forethought put into the plot and the narrative and everything in the story.
And there could be something to this because there's the twin factor. There is the fact that one of them is crazy, the other one's not crazy. The mother who keeps blaming the one son, even though it's very apparent that he's not the one who's done it. And even at the end, she's like, it's going to be okay. You know, Terry's gone now. And she's like, I'm fucking Terry, or I'm Todd. I can't remember. I can't tell them the fucking difference anymore. I'm Patty Lane, and Kathy Lane was the one who killed everybody. And so she just fucking offs herself. But they could have done something with that. They could have gone with the crazy mom thing from Sleepaway Camp. It's like the mom drove the kid fucking insane. And that would have been something to explore. They don't. It's just one of them's fucking nuts and kills everybody, and everyone else keeps mistaking the other one who's not nuts, but is still a little fucking nuts, because he's gone through fucking hell for 10 years. That would have been something, and they didn't. And I agree with you. Maybe it's because they just said, well, we've got Louise Lasser. We're going to focus as much as we can on her. But I just don't know that there was any depth to the rest of this. Is like, well, what are we going to work with? This is what's here. This is what landed in our lap. So let's just take this. I don't think they had enough going in. It's just like, here's one twin who kills people and another twin who's trying to stop him. But every time he gets a chance, he just cringes up and walks away. And a girlfriend who wants to have sex with somebody, but is really indiscriminate about who. And just like, why was she the final girl? Other than the fact that she was the girlfriend of the guy who was the murderer, why is she the final girl? Just because we needed one. Just because someone has to run around with a baby.
I think she took one extra bathroom break at some point, and that allowed her to survive the night. That's, I really, you know, I think this is probably one of those instances where we're probably overthinking it, because when they did it, I don't believe there was that much thought put into it. They literally sat in a room and they said, all right, one kid's crazy. The wrong kid goes into the institution or school. And then eventually 10 years later, that kid goes crazy again and goes on another killing spree. And then if you look at Louise Lasser's final moments of the movie, you can tell, once again, I mean, the acting was pretty poor there, but I mean, she's lost it because she's just sitting there screaming Todd over and over and over again, which I would say is to emphasize the fact that she is a bit out of her mind, or maybe more than a bit. So from a filmmaker standpoint, I would say, well, that's mental health issues going from the parents to the kids, and the kid's just worse, more violent than what the mom is. And you really need more than that. Today's audiences, yes, there needs to be much more substance there. But I think that's why they were able to get away with what they did with the movie. But and I will say this, and I'm going. Can I assume that you didn't love the movie?
It's my favorite movie since Toy Story 3.
Fantastic.
Easily on par with that.
I didn't hate the movie, and I know there's not a whole lot of story there, but I honestly felt it was better than it had any right to be. I went in with super low expectations, and I actually had more fun with the movie than I thought I was going to. But I think a lot of that though is it's kind of the epitome of what you think of when you think of an 80s slasher film. Loose to almost no story. The gore and the kills were there. I really enjoyed a lot of the kills. I thought the special effects were really well done for what it was. Cheesy acting, tons of tropes, and I think it falls into that category, and that's probably why I enjoyed it. Now, is it a good film? No.
It's a great film.
No, it's not a good movie. But I think it's a fun movie from the fact that if you want to just sit down and be able to take your brain out for 80 minutes and watch something that is kind of, well, not even kind of, is pretty dumb, and there's tons of cheesy acting, is like what you think of when you think 80s slasher. That, to me, that's what this movie is. And I think to some degree they probably, I kind of got the vibe that they knew that at some points, because like the whole thing where it's not cranberry sauce.
Yeah.
I mean, those moments were almost too on the nose.
It seems like that should have been on the poster. That should have been the calling card for the movie is blood rage. It's not cranberry sauce. Should be right up there as the tagline for the film. Does it say that? Seriously?
Yeah. This Thanksgiving, it's not cranberry sauce.
You're so righteous. I love you right now so much.
Okay, so this is how I knew about the movie. I actually ordered the Arrow release, which is a 3-disc, like Ultimate Edition Blu-ray, and yeah, and it actually has
2 and 3. What are discs 2 and 3 in a 3-disc edition of this film?
It's a 3-disc director-approved limited edition. The director took more time of his life to approve this release.
Well, he's probably not doing a whole lot, so he had free time.
Let's see. There's 3 versions of the film.
I was hoping. I swear to God, I really was hoping there was a director's cut, like a full-on Batman v Superman 5-hour mixtape of this shit. I'm not even joking about that.
There's Blood Rage, the original home video version. Nightmare at Shadow Woods, which is the theatrical recut, and then an alternate composite cut combining footage from both versions. So,
you watched all 3?
I have not.
Well,
I've only watched the same one you guys have seen.
Yeah.
So
I really would like to know what else there was. The director of this did one other movie. It came out in 1977 called False Face, and wrote a movie called The Bride in 1973. That's it. So you're right. The agreement was, we want a director's approval of this. Fucking cut me a $5 check and call it a fucking day. I've got a friend who will buy me a rare beer on Black Friday that I can send that to you right now.
Well, so I mean,
I am going to say, as far as the acting, Mark Soper, who played Todd and Terry, does a really Nicolas Cage worthy version of over the top, fucking crazy, stupid Todd and shaky Terry at the same time. As far as playing twins goes, they felt very distinctive. I wondered if they were 2 different people. Because they didn't even look alike, which is funny because the kids look more alike, and they were played by 2 different people who I don't even think were related, unless one of them is using their married name.
Well, I mean, for me, the act, like what'd you say his name was? Terry Soper?
Mark Soper is playing Todd and Terry.
Mark Soper? Okay. I actually thought he was all right. To me, he carried the film.
Yes, he had to.
True, but I mean, his acting could have been so bad that it would have made the film unwatchable, and I didn't get that. Like, I actually felt like he was trying to do a good job, and I thought he did, which was weird because I thought his performance outshined the person which was the name.
Well, he probably stuck more to a script. From what we're guessing, it sounds like they let her go and just, ad lib and just do a bunch of shit for. That's our assumption.
Right.
Which she's very watchable, but it doesn't mean that the performance is good because she's got nothing as far as material that she's doing. She's just like, just keep going, just keep going. Yeah, you're talking to another. Call somebody else. And what would it be like when you call somebody else, still trying to get through to this person? Because it makes zero sense that anybody would spend an hour and a half trying to call a person who is 20 feet away in a fucking back office behind the house. Just go with it. Just go with it. And he was probably actually using the material that was presented to him. Okay, yeah, play over the top crazy guy who's killing everybody, and then play his brother who has been blamed for these murders all of this time and is unsure of himself and is trying to protect people, but everybody's suspect of him. Yeah, he did a good job with that. That's a very meaty role to be given in the sense of a 1980s horror movie. I have no problem with this performance at all.
Yeah, he did a lot with the 7-page script he was given.
Yeah.
So.
Which is 5 pages more than Rambo. Page 1, Rambo opens fire. Page 2, the end. This is not a deep film. We don't expect it to be a deep film. But if you were given the budget and the desire to, hey, let's remake Blood Rage, what would you have done to correct the things in this film that you think didn't work? And what would you have kept?
Well, I mean, first of all, I'm a big, I'll start from the very bottom. I'm a big gore hound. Now, gore and blood and violence don't always, that's not what makes a film. But I thought for this, that was some of the stronger elements. And they had some pretty creative kills in the film. So I think I would definitely keep the body count. Now, from a story standpoint, an acting standpoint, I would definitely do everything I possibly could to strengthen that. Because that's the one thing about this film that I thought was pretty atypical, that people attribute bad acting to horror films. And there are a ton of horror films. I would say 9 times out of 10, independent horror films have horrible acting.
Right.
And I think it's become commonplace, and it doesn't have to be that way. You can have really strong actors in a horror film. Like, you don't have to just get whoever. You don't have to. The way I put it is, you don't have to settle for the best of the worst, which I think a lot of independent horror films have to feel like they have to do that.
Wasn't it Student Bodies or something that Brad Pitt was in? Was his first movie?
Was that cut? I thought that was Cutting Class.
That's it. Yes, I get them confused sometimes. Student Bodies is the comedy one.
Yeah. So I definitely would strengthen the acting department a lot. I would try to cut out as much fluff. I think sometimes, I mean, to put myself in their perspective, they probably looked at a lot of those scenes with her on the phone or her sitting on the floor eating, and they would probably argue that those are character building moments. But I would say no, that's just fat that should have been trimmed from the film.
Right.
But I think too, as a filmmaker, I think those are things you kind of learn as you go along, because I'm guilty of that in other projects. I'm not going to sit here and say that there wasn't fat in the first volumes of Blood. There's not fat in the second volumes of Blood. But I think if you're going to have a meaty movie or fill an 80-minute runtime, you definitely need to have some story there that has substance. Blood Rage would probably work better as a short film. I mean, you could probably make, if you tweaked some of the story devices and plot devices to make to actually give it some story or some reasoning or some motive for some of the characters doing what some of the, what they're doing in the film. I think it could have been like a solid short film, but obviously short films, even today, short films don't make money, but back in the 80s, it seems like, I'm not entirely sure. Did you read it to see if this was theatrical? Did this actually go theatrical?
Apparently, it came out in the theaters under a different title, Nightmare at the Shadow Woods.
Yeah, Nightmare at Shadow Woods.
Slasher was another name for it. But since it was filmed in 1984, I can't help but comparing it to another movie that was in 1984. It seems very similar in how the murderer is portrayed, which was Silent Night, Deadly Night, which was also a holiday movie. The over the top, like no reasoning, just psychotic snap killer. That was the expectation for this level of film. This, I would probably, honestly, as much as I love this movie, I could rank it slightly above Silent Night, Deadly Night. But Silent Night, Deadly Night gets extra points because it's got Linnea Quigley in it.
So if this had Linnea Quigley in it,
yeah,
for you, it's like 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Absolutely. I mean, I would dig up Gene Siskel just to cut off his hand and give the thumbs up here on screen.
Wow.
Well, so to finish answering your question, that's probably what I do. I mean, off the top of my head, I mean, I would have opened it in a different way. I know that, and obviously with a lot of films, they try to get you in that first 5 to 10 minutes where they have some visceral opening that really sticks with you for the rest of the film, and the kill was well done at the drive-in.
Yeah, I kind of wish that would have gone further. I wish that he had killed both the couple, the man and the woman, and then like gone around. I thought it was going to be a film where people were going to get murdered at the drive-in, which I think is a movie that actually exists. But I just like when it starts up with that, I'm like, oh, that would be great, and see this go around and have these twin kids go around just killing people at the drive-in. That would be a fun fucking movie. But no, it had to be.
So see, the film smashed your expectations.
Yeah.
So really, it was a phenomenal film going experience. You expected one thing, and it gave you
all these twists and turns.
Just so many twists and turns, you can't even name them all.
Like that point where it just kept going after it was already so bad. And then like, oh, I can't imagine it's going to get any worse than this. Oh, you stupid motherfucker. It is so going to get worse than this. Like, here we are playing tennis at night. Why? I don't care. I'm going to go chase the ball in the woods. The ball just showed up underneath me. Fuck it. Who gives a shit? Doesn't make any sense at all. Just keep going. And then it also got to a point where they stopped showing the kills. It's like, oh, I'm going to murder this person now, and it all happens off screen. It's like, I don't know if they got to the point where the budget had just dried up because they wasted all the good celluloid filming a woman on the phone, because that's where the money is. That's what the audience is begging for. But it's like, oh, you went outside. Why are you outside knocking on the door? It doesn't look at all like your head is just there lopsided and bloodied and your tongue hanging out. Let me open it and let you in. Or the amount of times that the killer would be in a room that he should have no way of being in. Like the girl and the guy just banged on the bed, and then she's in the bedroom, the master bedroom shower, taking a shower, and he just randomly is in the bathroom with her. Is like, oh, the guy's out on the bed and she's in here bathing, and I'll just wait until a little bit from now and I'll kill them outside. It's like, how were you there? How did you show up in that room and get missed?
From what I gather, Shadow Lake has some of the worst security measures in place. Because you'll notice at one point, his brother Todd was able to get into his apartment by getting a screwdriver and popping the sliding glass door open.
Well, I mean
that's how easy it was to get into these locations. So
I ain't gonna lie, I broke it into a number of places with an actual credit card. It used to not be that difficult. I swear to you, it was so fucking easy to break a lock open without even damaging it really back in those days. That I can actually believe. That is probably the most believable thing in this movie.
Well, then I'm going to go on a limb and say that is how he was able to access these places to kill these people.
But he couldn't get seen. He's standing. She's got the curtain for the shower open because that's how you bathe. That's how my wife bathes. That's why the fucking floor is always covered with water every time I go in there after she's done. But seriously, it's like, hey, I'm going to stand here and show my tits to the camera for a minute and not even look while I'm talking to somebody in the next room, not even look over at the guy who's standing in the bathroom with me. That I assume there's some sort of elaborate tunnel system going around at this place. It's like it was built over.
He and Jason Voorhees were like this,
right?
They shared the same tunnel system. I don't know. I think these are, going. At this point, it's probably an excuse, but I think because of what the film was, I think that's how they get away with that stuff. I mean, when this film came out, it was in the days where what we consider to be cliche was new,
right,
and fresh. And I'm sure they still had a lot of the same questions, like how does she not see him, or why would someone make this stupid decision, or why did this person do that? And I think there was actually a post that I put on Facebook a few days ago. It may have been Thanksgiving Day, where I just kind of asked the tropes that people hate the most in horror films, and I noticed there's a lot of things that popped up, but I think that to some degree you have to have a level of stupidity in horror films, otherwise you don't have a horror film.
Well, again, the Scream reference.
Like if people acted in horror films the way most of us would act in real life, at that point you don't even have a horror film. You have maybe like a suspense drama or something along those lines. You're going to have more of a drama than anything, because most people no one's going to back out of a room slowly. When I get scared, I turn and I run as fucking fast as I can in the opposite direction so I can see what's in front of me, making sure that whatever I'm actually afraid of is far behind me. So, it's just, and I've gotten scared and ran before, and I never fell down multiple times in the process of trying to get away.
The most honest portrayal on screen is Tucker and Dale, because seriously, I'm running away and I accidentally kill myself running away. That seems legitimate. That seems like the most likely thing. Oh, right. I'm not getting murdered. I'm killing myself because I'm in such a panic. I'm not paying attention to what the fuck I'm going towards.
It's an
just
unhappy
what I'm away from. Yeah.
Right.
And you're also right. In 1984, the expectation from a horror movie, certainly from a slasher movie, was not from a place of respect. It was the audience wants to see dumb people get murdered. That's what they thought it was. It's not about the plot. It's not about who or why. It's about, like, here's a bunch of teenagers getting killed. Here's some non-responsible adults getting killed. People are having sex, so they got to die now. I didn't get to have sex. I just played a ColecoVision for 5 minutes. Well, you dumbass, you should have banged while you could, because it ain't gonna happen now. There's your face. I completely understand. Yeah, it's when you look back 30 some odd years, the level of what you're going to get from horror movies is very different from what they are today. Just like the 20 years before that horror movies were in a very different place. Right.
Yeah, the audience has definitely grown a lot smarter, I would say, and have a lot higher expectations. And going like in the 80s, like I said, the things that we find cliche were fresh and new. So it's like, well, I'll take anthologies. Not too long ago, I watched the film Dead of Night for the first time. It's an anthology film. It was made in 1945, and it's fantastic. I mean, it's got a great story. It's got tons of atmosphere, and I won't even say it was a dislike. The only thing about it that I was kind of disappointed in was that the ending was predictable. Right. And I ended up having and I kind of called it way before the film ended. And I had a conversation with someone, and they were like, well, you got to remember, though, that's in 1945 when that came out, that ending had never been done before. So people who saw that were floored when the twist happened. because it was something that they had never seen before. But now we're so accustomed to certain types of twists and things that we can see it coming a mile away. So like when it came to making an anthology of my own, I wanted to get as far away from everything that most modern audiences know about anthologies. And especially like with modern anthologies today, 9 times out of 10, it's, someone says, I want to produce an anthology. So what do? And they do their research and they find a bunch of random short films that have been put on YouTube. They contact the filmmaker and they say, hey, I'm making an anthology. Would you like to have your film in this movie? And of course, the filmmaker, I'm sure, is yes, I would love for that to happen. So then you get these films or these anthologies with very loose connective tissue where it's just a bunch of YouTube shorts kind of slapped together. And I wanted to get away from that. So like when it came to making Volumes of Blood horror stories and the first Volumes of Blood, when we sat down to write them, we had to say, what is everything that the audience is going to expect to happen? And then try to do the other thing. So it's trying to keep ahead of the audience. But at the same time, we still, it gets to a point though, where if you want to get from point A to point Z in a horror film, you're going to have someone make a stupid decision or maybe do something that's outside the realm of what a normal person's intelligence level might be in order to get them from here to there. So so there's still cliches within the film, but at the same time, it can be a battle, a back and forth battle, trying to say, okay, well, how do we get from here to here without having somebody fall down, or the car doesn't start, or there's no cell phone service, or whatever the trope might be when you're trying to write a story.
Yeah, not everybody makes the same decisions, and not everybody can think clearly in a panic situation. My wife and I, as miserable as it makes us, we watch Big Brother, the reality show that's on CBS every summer. And you always see at least one person very early on completely fall apart, just lose all capability of rational thought. They go in and they seem like a perfectly intelligent person. They seem together. They're cool. And then all of a sudden, it's just the paranoia sinks in and they start to lose it. And they start making bizarre choices that have no bearing on reality, but because they can't separate themselves from like everybody here is competing for $500,000. And so I'm going to react in the fact that they are all against me. But they're working with you. You've got an alliance right now. Yeah, but that person's not being true to the alliance. There's no evidence to show that they're not. It's just like, this is what's in your head, and you can't escape by watching TV. You can't escape by reading anything other than a copy of the Bible I have in the house. You are literally like, all you've got is 24 hours a day for months at a time to think about gameplay. And so you see people lose it. And I completely recognize that in a situation where, hey, there's a bunch of people being murdered around me, I'm probably not going to think rationally. I'm probably going to hit the fight or flight, and it's most likely going to be flight aspect of my brain, and sensory overload is going to compel me to just go with instincts over intelligence. Making smart decisions is probably not something I'm going to be capable of at that point. And I make dumb decisions all the time now without any excuse. I've got time to think it out. And it's like, yeah, but I really would like to put peanut butter up my asshole just because, it's like you're sitting there, you got some Jif. What are you going to do on a Friday? So, which I assume Matt did. I just know that
obsessive compulsive disorder is just something you battle with. You're fighting. It's an internal struggle. So that's
internal.
Nothing to be ashamed of.
But I completely agree with you. Is if you want the story to go on, you can't everybody be smarter than the movie that they're in. But you can have some people be smarter than the movie they're in, or you can at least have some brave decisions. And I don't know that this movie was looking to do anything outside of what the expectation was.
No, absolutely not. No, it is exactly what it was supposed to be and what it was intended to be when they wrote that 7-page script.
But there was a grain there. There was something that you could take and, you know, foregoing the fact that it's no longer 1984, you can do something with it and make something out of it today, which is something in and of itself. You know, that one little bit and taking that and running with it and saying, what happens if we have a mother who's clearly insane, and then that insanity passes on to the kids, and that she only sees one of them as the angelic and the other one as the devil. And she's so willing to accept that as a reality and what that puts on them. And then that causes them to both snap in different directions. Yeah, there's something that could have been done with that if the movie had thought to try to go deeper. It's not their fault that they didn't. They just, that wasn't what they were making.
Spoiler alert, in the event that you haven't seen this, but if you take the mother out of if you take the mother out of the concept and you make the twin just another personality, you have the movie Split.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, so technically, Blood Rage, in essence, Split is like our times Blood Rage. It's, you know, it's you got the guy, you've got the you know, the problems. You have the innocent personality. You've got the really evil, hell-bent, gonna murder people, and that's their only motive type personality in the film. And I think there was like wasn't there like a gentle woman personality in his?
Yes, but
in his Rolodex of personalities.
The woman and the main guy seem to both be trying to do this thing. They're trying to bring this thing out. They are accepting of it. There's a child who's just like, he's just doing it because he has to go along with it. I don't remember so much anybody who was more on their side, but certainly personalities could be manipulated. But you're right. But in their idea, it was like they were being controlled, or they were trying to summon this extra personality that hadn't existed before. That's underneath it, that probably caused all of them to be. And maybe some of this is going to get worked out in the sequel and the Mr. Glass movie that's supposed to come out, because it's supposed to combine those films.
I cannot wait for that.
Split. I'm looking forward to it. I had some problems with Split, but I'd like to see what he does to make those two things compelling together. But yeah, I completely agree. There is grains of this that can go into a better mixture. And that could be fun. It could be fun to take this as a jumping off point and make something new out of it. And maybe that is what M. Night Shyamalan did, is that he saw this and is like, what could I do with that? I feel like a lot of filmmakers do that.
Van Damme did the same thing with Double Impact.
Yeah, absolutely he did. And that was a work of fucking
Twin Dragons.
He's like, this movie is so good it doesn't even need Rob Schneider.
I don't know. It probably could have used Rob Schneider.
Every movie is made better with Rob Schneider, if only for encouragement, telling me that I can do it.
That's so when I do my official Blood Rage remake, or I'm sorry, my reimagining of Blood Rage, I'll have Rob Schneider in the movie.
I say you just go with Rob Schneider as a murderous multiplicity, and just like 300 Rob Schneiders running across the screen at all times, playing all of the characters he's played in other films and SNL sketches.
You can do it.
You call it making copies.
We could do that.
God damn it, it works.
Was that the equivalent of your rakist joke? That's okay.
Right. Refractory period is over. The dad jokes again. All right. Matt, you got anything to add to this, or do you want to move along to the rating?
Oh, let's just rate it. You guys went further into that movie than I expected we would at all.
Going deep into Blood Rage.
Yeah. Congratulations.
That's not turkey gravy.
Oh, God.
Let's just fucking rate the movie. Because we're basic white girls here, we just rate it on a 0 to 5 scale. I guess you both just gave very long-winded explanations of what you thought of the movie, so maybe you guys I think you guys have talked enough. Maybe just a number. I'm kidding. It was 0 to 5, whatever. Whatever you want to say about the movie. This is your final thoughts. Yeah, you're the guest. Sorry, I forgot this part where I have to
okay,
tell you
I'll go. I mean, honestly, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I think for the time it came out and the subgenre it fits under, like I said, I had more fun with this film than I thought I was going to, and it was far better than, in my opinion, than it had any right to be. Of course, keeping everything in consideration, but I would go with maybe like a 3.5 out of 5.
Still pretty high. Although I guess you didn't hate it. Corey, how about you?
Yes, I did not hate it. I did enjoy it.
Yeah,
I might lean a little bit higher because PJ sold me on it, but I have to go with my first criteria, which is I cannot rate it higher than Silent Night, Deadly Night because it doesn't have Linnea Quigley. So I have to give it a 1 just by default.
Oh, wow.
It matches, but it can't go above.
fair enough. Man, I almost feel like I want to raise this a little bit. I did a 1.5 because it wasn't a good movie. I didn't expect it to be a good movie, but it was mildly entertaining for kind of a lot of what PJ said, where it's like you can just kind of take your brain out and you take it for what it's worth. I didn't watch this movie expecting to like learn something about myself. I didn't like think this was going to be a great story. It was a little cheesier than I thought it may be at times. The effects were better than I thought they were going to be, but you know, I didn't want like a deep story. I didn't get a deep story. That's fine. I would probably watch this again with the right group of people, but I would never.
It would become like your Thanksgiving go-to if you were going to have friends over the week of Thanksgiving in the future.
Yep.
Would this be?
Yeah. So it has like that place in my heart, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of these movies that we watched that I will never, ever, ever watch again.
Oh, that is true.
So that's why I'm like, I don't know, maybe 1.5 is a little too low, but yeah, could have been worse.
I have lower expectations.
Oh, they were low.
Standards. I have lower standards than you guys. That's.
I think UHF is like a cinematic genius film. So maybe
I love that movie.
I think enjoy a good red snapper. I completely agree with you. If I'm gonna go between who's the better wielder of the mop, it's a tough choice between him and the Toxic Avenger. But I might lean towards.
You get to drink from the fire hose today.
Yep.
Ah, boy, Corey, you want to read the outro?
Yeah, you can contact us. We said this at the beginning. You can leave us a voicemail at 805-328-3966. And by beginning, I mean halfway through the show. You can email us at pot@gncast.com or leave us a message on the website. Like I said, we'd love to hear from you guys. What are your expectations of a horror movie when you watch it? When you're talking about something, certainly from the 80s, do you come in for the slasher gore, or do you feel like maybe you've been spoiled a little bit by current films and you'd like to see them be elevated? Or if not, what is your current go-to slasher gore fest that is equivalent? Just let us know. You can follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We're at Podcast of Terror, and you can subscribe to us via iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or your favorite podcatcher. And leave us feedback on any of those. The subscription links can be found at gncast.com/subscribe, and you can join the Facebook page, Podcast of Terror. Or if you're interested in the network, the entire network is under Galactic Network. That's very simple.
Yes. It's also shopping season. Tomorrow, okay, if you're watching the video, this is tomorrow. If you're listening to it on iTunes, this was yesterday. But it's Cyber Monday. Go to amazon.podcastofterror.com, shop like you normally would. We get a cut. That helps keep this thing free for you. And it stops me from complaining.
No, it doesn't.
Nope, doesn't. But if give them a false sense of security, a little false sense of hope, and maybe that'll get us more money. Yeah. PJ, thanks again. It was
hey, thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Where can people find you if you want them to find you and everything you're doing?
Facebook. I'm on Facebook. That's the easiest way to get in contact with me if you, for whatever reason you might need to.
Yeah, PJ's family. Maybe you'll contact him on Facebook, you dicks.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know how much you loved Blood Rage as much as I did. With Volumes of Blood, which is on Instagram. We're on Twitter, Facebook also. So you can check out 1031 is on Facebook. Easiest way, like I said, probably is to Google me, and it'll bring up all the different sites and information for the different projects that I'm working on, and that's probably the easiest way. Otherwise, I'll be sitting here literally all night telling you the different venues to find out about the projects I'm on. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for having me.
Not a problem. Corey, where can people find you?
You can support the comics that I help publish by going to don'taskcomics.com, or again, if you maybe don't want to buy from Amazon and you just want to buy some really freaky artwork prints or commissions, you can go to my wife's store, store.arthag.com, and look at some stuff that is probably going to make you feel a little queasy.
A lot of dicks.
A lot of dicks and now vaginas. She's moving on up and inward.
What was that again?
Store.arthag.com. It's my wife's artwork. She's doing a Alice in Wonderland piece with a giant penis right now.
Oh boy.
Awesome.
Emphasis on piece.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram and on Tapped Matt the Lifeguard. Next week is Erica from Apex and the Abyss. We had to reschedule her because that's what we do now. We reschedule people. We're talking about the movie Monster Squad. And I don't know, she's probably going to make fun of me a whole bunch because she's kind of mean.
Because she's right.
Fuck you, Corey. I'll come back to California and just slap you.
Because you're right.
That's going to do it for another episode of the podcast here. Thank you guys for listening. See you next week.
Stay scary, everybody.